Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are on a mission that, it might sound a little bit simple on the surface.
Deceptively simple.
Exactly. But our sources guarantee it's the fastest way to really get a handle on English. We are digging into the most foundational rule of all, basic sentence structure.
Mm-hmm.
Our sources call this, and I love this phrase, the most important part. It's the strategic key. So for you listening, our goal is pretty clear. We're going to dissect the two non-negotiable pillars of every single complete English sentence.
The subject and the predicate.
The subject and the predicate.
Yeah.
We want to understand not just what they are, but why their super strict, rigid order is the perfect blueprint for building complex thoughts.
And that word rigidity is exactly what we need to focus on. A full sentence in English, at its core, it just has to be a complete thought.
Right.
If it doesn't meet that one criterion, it's just a fragment.
Mm-hmm.
And the way English makes sure it's complete is through these two parts. The subject, which names the actor, and the predicate, which tells us what that actor is doing.
So if you're missing one...
If you're missing either one, you might be communicating an idea, sure, but you're not forming a grammatically complete thought.
Okay, let's unpack this. And I think we have to start with that one critical rule about order. The thing that really sets English apart from so many other languages. It's all about placement.
Precisely. This is the rule you just have to burn into your memory. The sentence order must be subject first, and then immediately the predicate.
S plus P.
S plus P. That formula isn't optional, not in standard English.
Yeah.
When you're learning, this is not a suggestion. It's a fixed blueprint.
It's like a law.
It really is. Think of it like a train. You can't put the engine, which is the subject, behind the passenger cars, the predicate,
Right.
and expect it to go anywhere, right?
It just doesn't work.
The formula is unyielding. Subject, then predicate. And this is so different from, languages that have other ways of showing meaning, like special word endings that let you move the structure around. English just relies on position.
And if you don't stick to that, the whole thing falls apart. I mean, even if every single word is perfect, let's use that classic example from the material to really nail this down. The dog runs down the street.
A perfect simple sentence.
Right. So if we break it down, the engine, the who or what is the dog. That's our subject. Everything else runs down the street. That's the predicate. And the meaning is totally clear because that order is fixed.
And if you try to flip that, which is, it's a really common instinct for learners whose first language allows it, you get something like, runs down the street the dog.
Sounds like Yerda.
It does. And look, we can probably figure out what you mean. But it's a really jarring, incorrect structure in English. And that's the strategic insight, isn't it? You have to override that instinct and just submit to the SP formula.
Okay, but a subject isn't always as simple as just the dog. It can get confusing when there are a bunch of descriptive words. So let's dive a little deeper into the subject. What exactly is this naming part?
Well, the subject is the conceptual core of the sentence. And yes, it absolutely has to contain a noun, a person, place, or thing. But the real strategic insight here is that English demands that the subject be explicitly stated.
Ah, so you can't just imply it.
You can't. This is why English isn't what linguists call a pro-drop language like Spanish or Italian, where you can often just drop the subject because the verb tells you who's doing the action.
So you couldn't just say, is raining.
Exactly. In English, that's incomplete. We have to add that little placeholder subject, it is raining. That it is critical because the S plus P structure has to be there, even if the actor is, impersonal. The subject's main job is just to be in that first position.
That is a powerful distinction, the need for an explicit subject. That means when you're building a sentence, the very first thing you have to choose is your main actor.
Yes.
So let's look at our example again. The dog runs down the street. The subject is the whole phrase, the dog, right? The complete subject. But the core noun is just dog. And if the sentence was, say, the big, brown, scruffy dog that lives next door runs down the street, the complete subject is huge, but the simple subject is still just dog.
Exactly. And that's where learners get lost. They see all the description. Our material says, find the simple subject first.
Strip away the adjective.
Strip it all away, big, brown, scruffy, and just check if that core noun works as the anchor. That's the thing doing the action.
Okay, that makes sense. So now let's transition to the other side of this critical equation, the predicate. If the subject is the anchor, then the predicate is the engine. It's the telling part.
Right. The predicate is a little more complex because it has to have, at a minimum, a verb, the action word. But usually it also includes an object, which is often another noun that's receiving the action.
So that's where the rest of the sentence lives.
Pretty much. And when we put it all together, we get that really practical formula every learner needs to master. Subject plus verb plus object. SVO.
SVO.
The verb and the object, they basically make up the core of the predicate. And understanding that little triplet, SVO, is what lets you start generating correct English sentences on your own.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because that SVO formula, it's like a diagnostic tool. You can just mentally map it onto any sentence to check if it's built correctly.
It helps you decode meaning instantly.
Yeah.
Critical for reading, not just writing.
Totally. Let's analyze a few of those examples from the source material. Okay, first one. The cat jumps on the bed.
All right, the subject is the cat. The verb, the engine, is jumps. And in this case, the action moves on to something on the bed. That whole phrase, jumps on the bed, is the predicate. The structure holds up. S followed by P.
Perfect. And the next one shows that direct relationship really clearly. The mouse eats cheese.
Yep. Mouse is the subject, eats is the verb, and cheese is the direct object. The action of eating is done by the subject and received by the object. SVO. The thing doing the action comes before the action, which comes before the thing receiving the action. I mean, that order is the genius of English structure. It kills ambiguity.
And what about for a state of being? Like, the bird is in the sky. There's no real action there.
But the structure is the same. Bird is the subject, is the verb, a linking verb in this case. And in the sky completes the predicate. That core map is consistent, whether you're running or just being.
And that consistency is what's so powerful. If you mess with it, the sentence just, it collapses.
It does. And our material shows this so well with those correction exercises. They really show the mental breakdown that happens when you try to force meaning without structure.
Right.
Take the incorrect sentence. Sinking the boat is. If a learner is just piecing words together or translating literally, they get gibberish. You have to train your brain to find the actor first. The only fix is
The boat is sinking.
the boat is sinking.
Yeah.
The boat has to be in that subject position, followed by what it's doing.
It's the difference between guessing from the words and actually reading the grammatical signals. Okay, what about the other one? Is hot the sun?
Another classic Yoda sentence.
It sounds kind of poetic, but it fails the test because the actor, the sun, is in the wrong place. The only correct way is...
The sun is hot.
The sun is hot. Subject, then predicate. And if you, as a learner, can't instantly spot that subject and put it first, you're not relying on structure. You're just guessing. And that, I think, brings us to the biggest strategic insight in all the source material.
Yes. The foundational learning strategy. The sources are so clear on this. The biggest mistake intermediate learners make is trying to jump straight to complex sentences.
Before they've mastered the basics.
Exactly. They get confused because they're trying to, decorate a structure that isn't solid yet.
It's like building a skyscraper on a foundation made for a shed.
That is the perfect analogy. You can have the most expensive vocabulary and grammar, but if that S plus P base is shaky, the moment you add complexity, the whole thing just tilts.
It seems so counterintuitive to go all the way back to simple sentences, but the sources say that once that rigid SP structure is like a mental chassis, complexity isn't a problem anymore, it's just decoration.
That's the key takeaway. Once you master the simple SVO sentence, you have the framework. Every single complex sentence is just an expansion of the subject or the verb phrase or the object, but you never move their core positions.
Okay, let's walk through that expansion. We start with the foundation. The dog eats food. Simple. Perfect SVO. Now, we add a little detail, some modifiers. The big dog eats food quickly. The core is still dog eats food. The S, V, and O haven't moved. We're just adding color.
Right. And you can add even more context without breaking that framework. You can add prepositional phrases to say where or when. For instance, the big dog eats food quickly under the bed.
The core action is still leading the way.
Still, dog eats food. Everything else is just clarifying information built around that solid core.
And then for the most complex version they give, we can even add a second action, but it still hangs on that one subject. This big dog eats food and drinks water quickly under that bed.
You've just expanded the predicate. 2 verbs, 2 objects. But the entire sentence still hinges on this big dog being the actor right at the beginning. You've just decorated that solid foundation.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, mastering this SVO sequence is really the key to fluency, isn't it?
It is. In reading and writing. When you're trying to read a dense academic paper, your brain has to be able to instinctively strip away all the modifiers and find that core SVO structure to get the meaning. If you can't find the subject, the whole sentence is just a huge cognitive load.
So what does this all mean? For your learning journey, I mean. The source material lays out a really clear path forward, and it's all about recognizing the function of every single word you add to that foundation.
And that path is mastering the parts of speech. We've set up the roles for the main nouns and verbs. So now real mastery means learning the precise function of every other piece.
The modifiers and connectors.
Exactly. Understanding adjectives and adverbs, those other words like prepositions that show relationships and conjunctions that link ideas. The source makes a really bold claim here.
Which is?
It claims that total fluency is guaranteed the moment a learner fully understands how all these little pieces work inside that rigid SVO framework.
That's a compelling argument. It shifts the focus from just memorizing words to understanding structural integrity. You know, the implication here is that the biggest problem for advanced learners isn't a lack of vocabulary. It's that they never fully internalize these first rigid rules.
They skipped a step.
They skipped the most important step. So here's a final thought for you to consider. If English is defined by this fixed S plus P position, how much faster would your learning progress if you just stopped fighting that rigidity and instead started using its structure as your absolute strategic advantage?